Hello, and welcome to Tribe of Humankind. This is our sixth recording. Today's Saturday, March 4th, 2023. I'm your host this evening, Shane Osharua Alexander. And it's with great joy and excitement we gather together to record another conversation for Tribe of Humankind, where we talk about the spiritual evolution of our human species. That movement of all of us across the planet that is connected. We tune in with what is happening for us personally and take our perspective of what we see out into reality and do our best to speak our truth, to share our perspective, to hopefully help other people anchor into areas they connect and areas that they see it differently. And as long as we're speaking our truth, hopefully that will help support others as they make sense of what they see in the world around them and in their own lives, and maybe to help navigate towards the vision that most inspires them. And I want to really thank my four guests this evening for coming out again to share this time and space, some of them in the morning over there in California. And thank you for hearing this call and for wanting from your own hearts to give time and space and energy to speaking your biggest dreams and visions of what potentials are possible for both us and for our collective human race right now. And as well as to open up some space to speak some sanity to all of the strangeness we see happening in our world right now. And so with that, I would like to open the floor for my guests to introduce themselves. Let us hear where you're calling in from, just so we can put it on the map, and give us a little hello and introduction about who you are, what you are. And if you could even add in with your introductions this evening, a little bit of something you've done this week or month that tending to any stress or helping you to stay sane, or watering your own spiritual health and growth. Like, what are those things that you do that you could share with the rest of the world? And I'll offer that in the hellos and turn the floor over to whoever is ready.
I can go. My name is Manoj, and I'm calling in from Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. I'm just feeling elated, uplifted. I do notice a lot of energy in my chest right now, and these electric currents just running through my spine. Really feel it behind my head, and yeah, definitely feel gratitude for the sunshine and the warm weather, given the fact that I'm going to be going back to Toronto soon, back to the snow and the cold. So it really helps me to appreciate what I have here. Um, and in order to keep my sanity, something that helps me is to go for long walks, either to the beach or walk down in the nature, or even just downtown, like a walk as far as I can, with the little puppy, just both hanging out. And just see what arises. It just really, walking really helps me to process what's in my mind, um, forget about the day to day, and just to take in others and just seeing all the human beings on my path and just seeing the varieties. There are homeless people, and on the other side I see a Lamborghini driving by. So just the polarity of like all of that happening simultaneously definitely gives me more perspective. It pulls me outside of my own sense of being, allows me to look at the larger picture. I find that level of perspective helps me to stay connected, centered. It's almost like a walking meditation.
Mhm.
For me. That's me.
Thank you, Mano.
I can go next.
Mm.
I am Aisha Javons, and I do live in Northern California. I think I might be the only one who is in the States. So, um, how am I? Mono, right when you're talking about the energy that's running up the back of your head and your spine, I've been having a lot of sensations, and I know there's been like some extra intense solar flares, and I'm really feeling them. Yesterday, I was pulsing in my third eye. A lot of stuff was happening with my ears, and today I'm definitely feeling some intense energy all up in here. And yeah, feeling very alive today, even though I'm incredibly exhausted and have had a headache for quite a while now. There's something that's definitely happening within me. So yeah, I've been tending to a lot of physical ailments and just those those ways that your body's trying to speak to you to get your attention. And I find it interesting that I think a lot of times with our bodies, it's not it's never just physical. There's always some kind of emotion that is accompanied with the symptom. And so recently I've really been trying to tap in and look more at the emotion that accompanies it instead of just the symptom, because I believe that that is where the answers in the medicine and all the wisdom lives. And so to that point, the things that I like to do for myself when I feel overwhelmed or stressed, which I have been feeling for a few months now. And so I really had to implement a practice for myself. So every morning, before I even get out of bed, I lay there. The minute the alarm goes off, I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just fully allow myself to be in gratitude instantly, no matter how I'm feeling. And then I imagine a sphere around me, and then I really fill that space with my own divine love, my own gifts, and I call in my higher self through my heart. I call in my spirit guides, my guardian angels, certain ascended masters, depending on what I feel like I need guidance in that day. And I imagine grounding into Mother Gaia. I imagine connecting with the source that is within me. And I really just every day make a point to align the minute I wake up. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed, lately it's been really important to me to just keep coming back to my heart. It's so easy to be led by the mind or the different aspects of ourselves that are more intellectual, and just come back to my heart. This year I'm really focusing. I've talked about it before in a couple other of our circles that I was in. I'm just really learning to open my heart, so and really begin listening to it, just really being able to take the time, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed, to go, okay, what is right here though? And then taking the needed action. um, so yeah, those are some things that I've been doing, and it just, no matter what's going on in my life, it's I have to do that, otherwise I'd start to feel a little too intense. As you know, I'm already an intense person, so it's like really important for
Scorpio,
me to— what's that?
Scorpio, I guess. And
I mean, I was just born in the week of intensity, that's all. There's no getting around it. So I've surrendered to it. But there's definitely some management that I need to have for myself within it. And when things in my life are really hectic, which they can be, I'm really just learning to just be with it, just letting it be with it, know that there's something that's playing out and through me as well. And yeah, just keep coming back to what I know that lives right here.
mhm. Nice. Thank you, Aisha.
Okay, I'm Lex. I'm in England. Winter is just sort of ending. There's a turning of the seasons.
Mhm.
Spring's just about to arrive. And so that matches where I'm at personally in terms of cycles ending and new cycles beginning. And obviously being spiritual, um, trying to be creative and visualize and start to open new portals into interesting things. Uh, and that's about it for me this week.
Oh, I like it. Thank you, Lex. Any shares around some of that like creativity that's been coming through? Like, how it's been surfacing, or what you've been
Yeah.
creating with it lately, or
Well, particularly, I'm about sort of equilibrium and all of the right-sided creativity, etc., but also the left-sided doing and weighing and measuring, and marrying the two together and see if you can come up with something. And so I'm working on informing my field of information and energy, and learning, practicing doing it, but also being very careful about how I do it. So I'm looking at, so I've been saying things like, I give anyone that enters my field permission to be loving and lovable, that kind of stuff. And I've been getting tangible results, which is awesome. And so I'm sort of sitting with that now, as it's such a different way of feeling about waking up in the morning and going through your days. It hands over so much more potential, but it also hands you quite a lot of responsibility. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and imposter syndrome. This is crazy. None of this is true. This is all true. It's 100% natural. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. So
yeah, tune your radar to like what you want to connect with and see and invite in.
yeah, I'm sort of trying to energetically create a sort of a safe space, so that anyone that comes into my field of my field is sort of suddenly um entering some sort of safe zone.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to be like their full self, full aspect of self.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but
Ooh, cool. Thank you, Lex.
I love that, Lex. It's amazing. I mean, we are so powerful and limitless. Like what you're doing is, and I'm curious of what aspects of you are saying it's not true. Those are the ones who gotta go, because you're powerful.
Mm. Mm. Mano, did I cut you off earlier? Were you about to say something?
No, just like a very elated by just Lex's sharing. It's really powerful, and just hearing him just really open up and share that. I can see that, like the energy just coming out of him, super powerful, and I can see that's just him, like a softening in that process. I'm just witnessing the transformation that was happening through that. That's what I was out by. Thank you, Lex.
Clara, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm calling in from the edge of the Black Forest, so in Germany, and I'm just really moved and feel heart opened and softened by all of these beautiful sharings. And I feel like there were aspects within each and every one which I could really feel to be present also for me over the past weeks. And one of the things that I would like to share, which is really interesting, is like that for me, I love these deep dives. I love these conversations. I love to learn and to, dig into spiritual subjects and philosophical subjects and read all the books and do all the courses. And that comes really easy. And I can get quite lost in that sometimes. So for me to stay sane, I've learned how important it is to reconnect to the everyday and to the magic of the mundane and to the humanness of myself, and to just really loving that being human. It's like the smallest things that I just realize how much I just love, like waking up in the morning and having a cup of tea in bed and having my cats come over, and it's like these small moments that are so full of beauty. And I feel like really nourishing those moments and taking them in with all my heart, as opposed to sort of forgetting about them and diving deep into, you know, the mind, into understanding the world and understanding the universe and all of that. I've really learned, and I'm really learning more and more, how much I need this balance of like diving deep and then doing, yeah, really mundane things and just loving them. So yeah, that's what's been present for me when it comes to staying sane.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Clara. You know, as you're sharing that, I was remembering a moment before I would do yoga, like in the jungle. I'd sit and meditate, and then I would just notice my body would like expand, like it's my energetic body would expand, 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 and then I would be like so big, and then it would come so small into like a tiny little thing. And nowadays, when I do meditation, I do experience that, like expanding so large and becoming so small, and then to recognize, you know, I'm still in this body, and learning to love the humanness, learning to love this physical body, which allows me to tap into everything, right? Like you said, I also do get lost in the deep conversation, just being one with everything, and you know, leaving. But at the same time, also recognizing the value in, yeah, just respecting like what we have and appreciating. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more power in that. But yeah, I'd love to dive deeper into that if this happened to come up as a topic later on sometimes.
Yeah. The mundane, how it's all still there even during that part. I like the image of you in bed with tea and the kitty cats. That was like, it sounds like lucky cats there. Sounds like everybody's having a good time in that little scene. I don't know.
Yeah, they're always waiting by the door in the mornings until we let them in. So it's like,
It's tea time, Mom. Let's do it. Oh man. Well, I'll do a quick intro as well. So I'm Shane, and I'm living here in England as well for the first time in my life. A few months now, here with my girlfriend in the Cotswolds, England, a couple hours east of London, maybe a couple hours north of where Lex is. Not too far, and yeah. What do I do to stay sane? Like everything I do is about trying to stay sane, I think. Like a lot of sleep. That's what I start with. Maybe sometimes I lean too heavy into that one. Sleep. And so many different practices, and I don't seem to do any one of them daily, and that's been more of a challenge to try to get the dailies. But I have several that I play with. But a lot of times, even just reading certain books is super calming and steady to my energy, kind of paces me and relaxes me. And I always have 4 or 5 books I'm reading. I have several that I do, and I love to do intuition, and I love the journal. Journal has been like my companion for 20 years at least. I've been doing that, and it's not an everyday, but I do it and I love it, and it's just between me and me there, and give myself pretty free range to write about whatever. When I meditate, that always serves me well. Cooking food really helps me. I really enjoy cooking. It's a very like grounding, calming. My creative energy is flowing. Walks as well. Those are kind of my handful of go-tos. And let's kind of leave that there to simple things, not super profound. It's kind of simple to stay in my body, stay clear. Yeah, now I'd like to pass the talking stick around again, and just give everyone an opportunity to do the what I like to refer as hosting ourselves into presence, to just like tune in with yourself real quick and check in with your body, check in with your heart, and check in with your kind of psychic field and see if there's anything that's kind of been a big stressor for the last few days or week or so. Is there a big conversation that's about to happen? Is there something pulling on your health? Is there something in one of your relationships or your family or your work? Is there a world event that's happened that's really bringing a lot of new worries or stress into your life? Any of these things that you would like to speak into the moment to just kind of address what's pulling on you, so that we can free ourselves up to maybe get a little bit deeper if we acknowledge what's in our field right now. And just going to pass open the floor up for whoever's ready to speak to what's most real and true for you right now. Mano, are you on silent?
Yeah, thank you. I'll dive right in. Thanks for that intro. Yeah, I do notice my heart definitely feels expanded, and it also feels really soft. There's definitely a level of vulnerability that I feel because of the transition that I'm moving from here, from Florida back to Toronto. I've had such a beautiful time with my family here in Florida. They're like my parents at this point. Just because you share such a beautiful, intimate connection. Yeah, they're like a very heart-centered people, but they're also like a very much infused in the matrix, like a day-to-day matrix. And yeah, they've been really good in terms of like helping me grow, see certain things I wasn't seeing clearly, helping me ground back into this reality. More so than I was wanting, but it's very necessary. So they've done like a lot of work with me. I've learned a lot by being here. So now that I'm transitioning, there is that bittersweet ending, because they've also presented me with the option to actually stay in the States and study in the state, and possibly even help me with getting my green card. And so there's all of those things. So there's that level of opportunity that's available. But at the same time, just still noticing that pull within me to go back to Toronto, go back to having a better relationship with my family, my actual family in Toronto. It's definitely a stronger calling, but because there's like I'm leaving my one family here to be with my other family, there's that like the tug of war in my own mind, and accepting and surrendering into this is what I need to do. This is what's been guided to do. Listening to that voice more. So I do notice that it has a weight in my heart. So learning to spend time with my family, just to share that intimate, loving connection that we have as much as we can while I'm still here, and also preparing my journey. I'm going to be stopped back in my back soon, so it already brings up layer of emotion, because it's actualizing up until now, just booking the flight, setting the date, and there was still that hope, okay, I might still be here, but now it's like, okay, I'm actually going back. It's so things are becoming more and more real. And even earlier today, I noticed myself just feeling into the sadness that's there. But I definitely do feel grateful for this, the next step, and there's like a lot of prayer that's going into it in terms of that I get all the strength and the guidance that I need to stay strong, even when I get back to Toronto, and to learn to accept instead of having certain expectation, let them go and accept whatever comes. I will be guided, and that I'm ready. That's what's very much unfolding in my reality in this moment. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm. It sounds like things went really good there. If they're like offering you opportunities for you to come back or stay longer or return.
Mhm.
It's been a good relationship, huh? That's
Yeah.
You knew them a little bit before you moved there, or it's been kind of mostly new since you arrived in the last 6 months, or
No, I mean, they're my cousin that lives here.
okay.
And but I actually call her mommy. Like in my culture, like in Tamil, mommy means like aunt. So I don't call her aunt like or cousin. I just call her mommy, and it means like mother. So she's been a very good mother figure to me. And in the last ceremony that we had, because they also work with the medicine,
Okay.
had a MDA assisted psychotherapy medicine. So we were in the medicine, and then my uncle goes like, "I know you don't have a really good relationship with your father, but you're like a son to me. So now you can call me like Baba." So that kind of like emotional link that happened in that ceremony. So just like and then there was a point in the ceremony, like they were like, "Come cuddle with us." So there was me like laying on like my uncle's chest, and then my like mommy is like hugging me from the other side. So just like this reunion, like an interconnectedness of this inner child and getting the love that he deserves. It, yeah. So there's all those neon that's connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing, Mano.
hmm So just leaving all of that and knowing that this connection is like strong. But now there's this opportunity as well. So yeah, so that's what I mean by that tug of war in my heart.
Sounds like a bond that will continue to grow, whether you're
Yeah.
living there or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of gifts that you've received in these last 6 months that are like there for you to continue to like water, yeah, and take care of and share as you wherever you land. And
And to call on, whenever I need it, whenever I feel like I need a strong father figure in my life, or I'm not sure what I'm doing, I need my mother to set me straight. Like, just they're like, yeah, no, we're always here. You're like our son. So, um, yeah, it's been a very powerful, powerful time being here.
it's big. You made more family with your family you already had. You deepened it. Yeah. Mhm.
Mana, that really touches me. It actually almost makes me feel like I want to cry. It like hits me right in the heart because, I know what it's like to want that love and approval and just to be seen for who you are and to be accepted just as you are by your parents. So tears of joy for you that you are able to experience something so intimate and so nurturing, and I almost feel like that's important for where you're about to head off to, going home. It's like
Mhm.
you've been mirrored in all of your worthiness and your divinity by this family, this part of your family. So now that it's like you can go and actually be with your parents and hopefully hold that beautiful energy right here the whole time, no matter how they are. And I
Mhm.
think that's really powerful. Yeah.
Thank you for that reflection, Aisha. Yeah, it truly was very powerful. And oftentimes for me, it's about like a letting go. Like sometimes I do have a hard time letting people in because I'm afraid of getting hurt. It's like the love feels so good, but the pain feels so intense. So yeah, they've been cracking my heart open like a little by little, and it's an intense process, like in both ways. The love feel intense and the pain feel intense. I'm like, fuck. It's yeah, yeah, but it's been really good.
You're really brave to allow yourself to feel both of those extremes because that really is living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually helps me feel more alive, and Yeah. Mm. If I may, Aisha, like what is moving through you, I see you, and I feel like there's a process that's unfolding. Would you like to share?
You would be correct. Oh man, I have a lot moving through me right now. I'm like, what do I even start with? Do I name all of them? But on a physical level, I've been dealing with a lot of um, issues, and sometimes it's hard for me to determine whether it's old energy, that's been awakened, and I've brought fresh energy into this space, and it's broken up stagnation, and it's just, it's still releasing. My body's still catching up to that energetic or spiritual work that I've done. Some of it I know exactly what it is, but I feel a lot of my environment intensifying it, and I'm really just learning how to be in my body, and like Clara said, like be human and come back and be here. And I never really realized that till, a few years ago, that I'm not doing that. And I haven't done that a lot of my life. And what does that mean for me, and so I've really cultivated a relationship with my body, but now it's at this next level where I really am stepping up to honoring it a whole lot more than I have been, and listening to it more than I have been, and understanding that my true elevation is going to be through my body.
Mm,
And so many times, like Clara was talking about, I love, me too, I love deep diving. I love the deeper, unknown, darker, you know, forest. I love being in there. And sometimes it's really easy to get lost in all of that, because especially if you get comfortable there, and it inspires you. But man, it's so important to come back to the body, because this is where the human journey happens, and so for me, I have been just dealing with a lot of things with my body, and it's definitely emotionally related, and I'm really trying my best to navigate that, and to be consistent in honoring my body, consistent with sleep, consistent with um, simplifying my diet now that I'm allergic to certain things, or whatever is coming up. Really looking at the emotions instead of the symptoms now, and really looking at like how my body is guiding me to meet it and have a really beautiful relationship with it, so that I can thrive, that we can thrive. I feel like I'm a team with my body. Um, and so that's like one aspect of something that I've been dealing with for a while now, and it just feels really draining and overwhelming for me. Um, but the main thing I really wanted to share, that's been on my mind, that I wanted to share with the group that I've been in, and I had shared a little bit of this with you, Shane, just personally. I remember, I think I told you about, at the very beginning of the year, I sat in meditation with Mother Mary, the Ascended Master Mother Mary, and really just asking her to help me to clear out, and to really be able to see myself and how I've been guarding my heart. Right. And I told you about that vision I had,
yeah.
and then I end up, just to share with you guys real quickly, I won't go into it too because it's very intricate, but in this vision that I had in deep meditation, I was like transported to this actual beautiful place where I was overlooking this valley with these beautiful hillsides, and this structure around me that was kind of like this stone built circular structure. And I was having funerals for my of aspects of myself. I was intentionally doing that to just start this new year with just really becoming and aligning with who I am, and who I'm becoming. And it was very intense. There's a lot of aspects to it. But this place, I end up a week later scrolling, and I saw a picture of it, and I was like blown away. I showed my boyfriend, and I said, "This is the exact place that was in my vision." Whoa. So I started reading about it, and it literally was a place where it was built to hold actual funerals. It was a very sacred space, and it was in Northern Ireland, and my peoples are from Ireland. And so just about a week ago, my boyfriend and I were watching this really just cool documentary about, the beginning of humankind and different species of humans, and I said, I've never really looked up the origin of my mother's maiden name, which is Irish, which is Tolan. And I started to read about it. And I said, you know what? I'm intrigued of like, where are they from? And they're from Northern Ireland in County Ulster. And I said, I have got to check and see if that place that was in my vision, where it is. And it's in Ulster. And it just like
Mm,
blew my mind. And I know that and so there's so much in there for me. I mean, when you and I talked, Shane, you're like, wow, there's a lot for you to unwrap in there. And I'm like, I know. Well, guess what? It's a lot more.
mm,
But what came to me was, okay, Aisha, it's time for you to avoid diving into your own lineage. There's something there for you. And I have never felt called to it. And I've tried, believe me, I've read books about Celtic, uh, stories and mysticism and especially Celtic women. But it's never called to me the way that, for instance, Native culture
mm,
has called to me. And in all my visions and meditations, I'm instantly in a tribal setting. And I don't know if that's past life. I don't know what I'm really necessarily connecting with, but it always feels so true to my heart. Whereas my own lineage has not. But I have asked this year for my heart to be blown open so I can truly deeply love myself and know myself. So I felt like, okay, maybe this is a sign that it's also time for me to truly know where I come from
mhm.
on a deeper level. And so it's really got me excited. It's overwhelming in a way. It's like, okay, something is definitely guiding me. That is something.
Yeah.
What is that yet? I don't know. So I've been really excited about doing a lot more research into that. And yeah, just knowing myself in a way that I have never known myself. Yeah, it's exciting.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know it's a lot. Sorry.
Mhm. Does anyone have any questions for Aisha? Mano, I think you're on silent. Or
I'm keep forgetting that I'm putting myself on silent and taking it off.
good job.
Um, I love your intricateness of like your lineage. I think it's if it's coming back to you in like many direction. Yeah, that's definitely an invitation that it wants you to dig deeper. It's
Mhm.
probably some sort of wisdom that's in there. And yeah, I'd love to hear like a way you discover, when you dive in. Like I'm curious to know. Um,
I, I
and
will
there's a lot of wisdom in that lineage.
Mhm.
So, and I'm grateful that you're sharing this with us and also with the greater audience. And who knows, we might also receive some more feedback.
Mhm.
Thank you for saying that, Mono. There was a moment where I was like, should I share this? So thank you for saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think there's like a lot more power to the intricateness, right? And because like as a being, we see beyond the surface, then we definitely see the depth of like there's a lot more than what meets the eye. So once we see that, it's hard to unsee it.
Mhm.
So, and the more intricateness there is, like a more synchronicity there is always a guidance, and that's where I tend to follow as well. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm happy for you on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's where we each all individually and as a collective find ourselves in the spirit world or how we're guided is feels very intimate to me
Mhm.
personally. And it is. And sometimes you can't even really describe it to someone. But
Mhm.
I'm always like unsure sometimes how much I want to share of that intimate place that I am able to be guided and loved and to be able to see things. But I think you're right, Mono. Thank you for reinforcing that for me because I think it is important for people to understand that, wow, there is a whole nother aspect to us as spirit beings in a human body. And there's a whole nother wealth of knowledge and way to be guided. It's not always right in front of our eyes.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's always not right in front of our eyes, but yeah, because it's the frequencies, right? It's the energies and how they choose to interact with us and how aware, or like how soft are we to be able to receive those messages, you know. I find that the more sensitive we become, the more we feel, the more I feel like I'm being guided. Um, it's yeah, it's definitely quite a dance.
Yes, that's the word I use. It is a dance.
Aisha, I want to reflect to you too, like I noticed there's some similarity there about you working with noticing emotions around aspects of your body that are hurting or not feeling in strong health, that the emotion surface, and you're like paying attention to those as like just as important, or maybe even like informing of like where the root is, like that frustration or anger. Maybe that's like a key way, a doorway into the healing journey of the physical. And then in that vision where you're doing like spiritual prayer work and like releasing and letting go and dying and saying goodbye to aspects of self, like opened up something real world for you of an understanding with your family line that was very 3D practically, like, hey, wait, this is like where my people are from, this is
Yeah.
the and it's cool how what sometimes we say, I think in our mind we compartmentalize a lot, and I think that's a subject we could dive into deeper as a group. But like that compartmentalization blocks us from seeing how these things are connected, and how the healing comes when we like take down the separation in between those things. Thank you for that share.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for reflecting on it. I always welcome feedback on certain kinds of experiences that I have.
Mhm.
Because, in the spirit world, it's not like here. I mean, it can be intense, but also just like, oh, your soul just feels so good in that space. We are meant to be able to operate there as well. And I just appreciate any other perspective, one's perspective on it as well, because we are human beings and sometimes we don't always see everything.
I'd say keep pulling that thread.
Yeah.
So I think it's pulling up good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, what comes up for me there is this, as you just say, thread. I'm reading a really beautiful book right now, which is about ensouling language. But what's in there is actually deep, deep wisdom. And he keeps talking about the golden thread and following the golden thread as a writer, following the golden thread through a moment. And it starts off with this moment where something magical happens. And then there is this golden thread that emerges in life, and that we can follow that with our life. And then something really beautiful and magical will unfold, and this golden thread will always lead to some kind of mystic place that holds wisdom and that holds beauty. And at the same time, through the golden thread, we pull that mysticism and that magic into life, into the 3D. And I really felt that when I was listening to your sharing and to your story and to what happened, was like, that felt like, wow, that is such a beautiful golden thread that is unfolding there, that you're following right now. So that's really, really beautiful.
Oh, I love that. You'll have to share what book that is.
Yeah. It's called Ensouling Language.
Who's
And
the author?
I'm trying to remember the name of the author right now.
It sounds familiar to me. I think I've seen this book before.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the author. When I have it, when I remember, I will let you know.
Okay. I can look it up too. Thank you so much for sharing that. That sounds amazing.
Lex, I think you're on silent as well.
Clara, take it for granted that if it's me and you left, I'm waiting for you to speak first.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah. what is wanting to be shared. So yeah, I want to be really honest, what's most present for me right now at this moment, it's quite a bit of a vulnerable story, but I'll try to keep it short. But it's just it's just plain my truth right now. So I've been trying to we've been trying to become parents for quite a while now, my husband and I, and it's always at that time of the month when, you know, I'm moving towards the end of my cycle where the question comes, has it worked out or not? And that's really big for me because I've lost 2 pregnancies over the past 2 years. So it's just been a journey of deep grief and deep healing. And I was really hearing this, what you were sharing, Mano, with this paradox of having these 2 huge emotions going on at the same time. And for me, that's definitely present right now because there is this huge hope and this huge trust that it's going to be well and it's going to work out and one day it will be fine. And then on the other hand, there is this huge fear of having to grieve so much again and having to lose again, and the fear of that, and the fear of like this almost like an insecurity of like, could I handle that pain again or not? I don't know. And it's like, and on the other side there is this huge love and this huge trust, and it's like and sometimes I feel like I'm in this swirl of emotion that's going around me, and it's like so much hope and so much trust and then so much fear and so much grief, and I'm like, whoa, I'm somewhere in the middle of it. And it's very much also connecting into the whole thing with, grounding back into my body and understanding my body better and moving, connecting these realms of like the realm of the spiritual and the realm of the physical. And really, I think when this journey started, I was very, very much in the spiritual realm only, and I forgot about my body. And then I was pulled back into my body like with so much force, and I forgot about the spiritual. And now it's like kind of moving back together, and I'm in that, and it's coming around kind of every month. So, and that's the space I'm in right now. I'm kind of weirdly used to it by now, and at the same time I feel like I will never be used to it. It's a paradox. So yeah, that's from my side today, and it's got some heaviness to it, and I kind of I'm sorry for that. I don't want to you know, but that's what's real right now.
Thank you so much, Clara, for sharing something so vulnerable and close to your heart and scary. I can feel the like just in your storytelling, I can feel that like excitement and like like fragile heart that you don't want to break again on the
Clara, that really brought me to tears because I too have had multiple miscarriages, and that was in end of 2020 and then into 2021, and then I recently had one about a month ago. And I hear you. It's like, it's what you said. It was perfect. It was about how you can be so at peace with how it is, but then it just feels like you're always going to hold that. You said it much more eloquently, but it's like, I would love to talk to you, you know, off of here, you know, because I feel like you and I could definitely bring a lot of love and comfort to each other within that experience, because it's so intense, you know, and it does have a lot of fear, and it's like really learning how to be in that space and trust, like you were talking about, trusting that everything is the way that it is supposed to be. And it's such a tender kind of grief to hold, and to be strong within, you know. Thank you for
Wow.
sharing that. Yeah, that really touched me. I have just, you know, I had this miscarriage last month, and I'm not talking about it. I've been in a very quiet place, and I'm just trying to heal my body. But it's just, I always am at peace with however, you know, my life is going to be, and what is served to me, and what is given to me to be able to show up and serve others. But yeah, there's always this space within it that feels like, why can't that be mine? Always in the back of my mind, you know? And yeah, it's just, yeah, very tender part of being a woman and part of being a human.
Thank you so much for those words. Yeah, I really feel that, and it's so fascinating how I hadn't planned to talk about this at all. It just wanted, I don't know, it almost like I couldn't not say it. And it felt really important. And I think it's definitely one of those things that I feel is talked about very little. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about this at all until I was in it. And it made me also quite angry about the state of society and school and education, that this is something that happens to so many. And yet it is something that is such a taboo to mention and to speak about. And I feel like there is so much unresolved pain and grief in so many people, men and women alike, because I feel the same pain in my husband. And when he opened up at work to some of his male colleagues shared that they had the same pain and the same grief and never got to talk about it. And I feel like it's just one of those things that if we can break some of that grief up, not just individually, but for the collective, then it's almost like there is some really beautiful energy that can be freed again, that is right now held captive in many people's hearts.
Absolutely. That's beautiful too, because there are a lot of men that I think even more than women aren't able to talk about it. You know, I started I called it the sacred pregnancy loss circle, and it was because of that there wasn't anything designed in my community, at least, to hold space for women who had, child loss or pregnancy loss or miscarriages. And I think I really want to talk to you more about it. I think that there's
I would
so
love.
much potential. Okay, wonderful. There's a lot of potential for us to create this space. And for me, I learned through it, I called it initiation, because there was a space and time where I had to show up at a certain frequency every day, not to be sucked down into this dark void. And I'm so glad that I had done all of the spiritual practices and built this foundation for myself and trust in something bigger than me. But I do believe there is a way the grief is there to carry us, and it's learning that art of being. And that is what I want to share with other women. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less. We're human beings, but I do believe there can be a lot of medicine and beauty in the process. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and let's definitely talk more.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. That sounds, it's yeah, golden work. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Super grateful for your share, Clara. Thanks for stepping up and not going around that or trying to spare us, what your truth is. And I'm glad you felt safe enough to say that. And
Thank you for holding that space.
do any of the brothers have any reflections or questions for Clara on her share?
Really appreciate you opening your heart and sharing what was alive within yourself. And yeah, I really appreciate your truth and your vulnerability of what was coming through you. And I can see that, like, how challenging it must be. I can only imagine. I mean, being a man, I can feel the pain. and I can feel the love and the excitement that you feel wanting to have this like little baby, um, but all the challenges that come along with it. Hmm. Yeah, I do feel like within myself there's a sense of inspiration when I hear you share these. Um, and I do find that, even as a man, like I want to be able to talk about these things if I ever, go into these personally myself. Yeah, it's, yeah, it really touches me. It really touches me. And I love seeing the connection between yourself and Aisha that got formed because of this vulnerability. And to know that, like, you do have a support system, that you're not alone in this process. For me to watch you to connect, it just cracked my heart right open. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, just to be able to witness this and this level of like calmness as like a three male, just witnessing this like beautiful connection that's unfolding, and openly sharing this interconnectedness. I think if we can have these connections all around in this world, I think that is the transformed world we were talking about. Um, and this is one of the visions I do have for humanity, to be able to drop in, share, say what's in your heart. And yeah, thank you. And I do pray that a miracle happens every moment, and that golden thread is guiding you toward the right moment when the baby is there.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
your
much.
share.
Claire, yeah, I'm feeling moved to just say something like yeah, as a man and witnessing a woman go through that, there's a lot a lot of mystery there, and we have to only guess or speculate that intimacy of connection between a mother and her child, and what that beginning moments are like at the early stages of conception and caring. And yeah, all I could hope is that though there's that like closer intimacy for the woman, that I would never want my partner to take it on as like her full responsibility on whether that comes through successfully or not. Like there's so many factors involved in that, of that's environment and the man, and what what he brought to that co-creation for that to happen. There's so many other factors that go on in there for the woman to take it all on her shoulders, as like it of like the success or failure is completely like her responsibility. I feel is like maybe too much for the woman to have to hold there. There's like environment and things and fates and so many other things that come into play, that I would hope my partner doesn't like wouldn't get the feel like it was all on her, whether that comes through or not, but to hold that open of like we're all playing parts in a bigger fabric of life, and witnessing that, even though I know that it must strike a little bit deeper into the womb of the woman to feel in the way of like the emotion and the feeling and the connection. I could only imagine that from my perspective. I just wanted to offer that. That's what I would hope for.
Thank you.
Mm. Mm. Thank you for
I just
sharing.
want to thank Shane and Mono for speaking to it from a male perspective. It's really heartwarming to hear that, because, yeah, I mean, how could either of you even understand what it is like not being women? But to know that to hear it, that those different perspectives, even Mono, you have a really beautiful soul. Um, to know that there are masculine energies that are holding women in that way, that is also what our world needs, for men to begin understanding, what it's like to be a woman and what has been projected and put onto us throughout, well, thousands of years, and how that's accumulated to this point in time. I mean, I don't know about Clara, but it's like when you've experienced the energy of another soul being within you, that's something a man will never experience. And then to feel it leave, I mean, it's like, it's really undescribable, and but it's really heartwarming and feels really beautiful to hear both of you speak to one, witnessing it and appreciating it, and then also being mindful of your part in it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your bravery to share what's most true in your heart. We're holding it here with you. Yeah. It may have had something to do with that magic that Lex has been doing, where he welcomes the love into his environment to embrace people to be their full selves.
Yes.
Lex, how are you feeling? Would you like to share a little bit of your personal truth of what's feeling real or alive for you right now, and or even this week in your life, in your last week or two, maybe even?
So yeah, just more of the same really. I'm practicing connecting, and there are levels of connection, and connecting with people is difficult, I find, genuinely, like not as character, you know what I mean? And some transmissions are silent.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so I've been going out and about and practicing making connections with people who you might call spiritual, you might call conspiracy theorists. Some people say awake, some people say woke, and it's extremely challenging. Everyone's in a different universe. I sat at a table with 10 people today, and everyone was there for the same reason, because they feel different to most people, and they want to connect with other people and feel less isolated, and they feel like they're sane, and they want to be around more sanity to have that reflected back to them. And then when we get together in groups, even then, the amount of different perspectives and the difficulty of pulling people into a singular location is just, it's very it's interesting, let's put it that way. So you can sit, I can sit and have a conversation, and me and one other person will have an excellent conversation, and everybody else's face and energetic says, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I have a completely different conversation with somebody else, and they're totally into it, and the same thing. And it's like speaking multiple languages. And only when you each, like, say for instance, a French and a French, you can have a rich conversation with all the nuance and subtlety of the vocabulary. But then French and Spanish, it gets a bit lost in translation, right? So I'm working on that at the moment, and trying to create some sort of conscious Esperanto, or whatever you call it. And there's so many layers to it, like, bear with me. So you've got political, real world, education, all that sort of stuff. And then it goes into sort of almost then there's on the other end, you've got transcendental, life's a learning lesson, soul journey. It's all been set up. I chose all the people. I chose everything. And then there's in between those, in that sandwich is an infinity of different stories,
Yeah.
you know? And it's difficult to wake up in the morning and even know what I fucking am. Are you guys feeling that? Like you wake up in the morning and go, well,
Like if you define it too much, you're more lost.
well, if you're drawn into definition, full stop, almost, isn't it? And yet the thing I'm trying to do is define it. And I think it's like being a Swiss watchmaker or something, you know? It's time. There's a level of skill required, and you have to make a lot of watches until you have the skill level, you know? And I think I'm getting close. But then you reveal the inner workings of the watch to people, and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's a watch. What do you want from me? You're like, oh, all right then. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's making all conversations difficult. It's like, I don't, there are so many viewpoints that you could look at a conversation from. And none of them seem to be the center. You see what I'm saying? So any interaction I'm having, including the one with you guys now, I'm a bit lost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to enter and where from, you know? And so I've got like 50 options and I'm going,
Lex, what happens for you when you enter from your heart space? Because you keep going like this from here, and I get it. I absolutely understand. But what happens if you enter from here? Does it feel different?
I did. And that's why I didn't say anything.
Oh, interesting. Why is that, may I ask?
There was nothing to say.
Oh,
Communicating with your mind from my mind is exactly what you just said was a waste of time.
what do you mean?
So you guys, what you just shared, if I had a conversation with you, it was from my heart to your heart. So, you see, this is what I mean. I just seem crazy to everybody, right?
Well, not necessarily. I think more of it is, for me, I'm always trying to understand, and I love different perspectives. I'm always trying to widen my perspective and the way I see things, and we do that through each other, you know. And so I don't think you're crazy. I think I'm yearning to understand fully of what it's like to see through Lex's eyes or how you approach the world. And I always love every time that I've heard you speak, Lex. It opens me up in a new way, and I love that. I think there's certain times where when when the heart space comes up, then I kind of lose of how you work in that way. But I also want to understand it too. And it's not a judgment at all. It's more just like an
Paradox.
observation and me trying to understand it, you know?
Okay, here's the paradox. So you guys have sensed that I've been defined by many people as too intellectual for speaking things into the minds of others. But that has to be done. But what I tried just now was not doing that, which is the advice of everyone spiritual, and literally trying to, not even psychically, like when you guys shared, I didn't do exactly that. I didn't speak to it. I didn't turn it into words and stuff. I literally hearted it out for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of
I
like
think I do. Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do. Anything else made it sort of a bit cheap or something.
If I'm understanding you correctly, you're just saying like you're taking the time to like feel that in your heart, and you're like holding that space with your heart during that, and then it's kind of the moment's complete that way. And
okay, so in my mind, what I
Mm.
tried to do was connect my heart to your hearts and
Mm.
have a communication that way. I
Mhm.
just did the
Feel like
devil's. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did, and it just sounded like silence.
that is the silent transmission, isn't it?
Lex,
Well, now that oh, sorry.
go ahead, Aisha.
I was gonna say, now that I understand it, now that you've described what you've did, I've done that before as well. Not here, but just in my life. And it's so beautiful. I think here where maybe like because we do want to hear from you and we want to hear from your heart space and but we also want to hear what you have to say intellectually. And I think now that I understand it, I'm like, oh wow, that's really beautiful, and it allows me to see you in a different way. I think that if I don't know that you're doing that, then we're all waiting for you to speak. Then I think that maybe that's where the looks on our faces come from. But now that I understand that you're doing that, wow, it's like I see a whole nother aspect of you, Lex. So thanks for sharing that you were doing that, and I think it's actually really beautiful because heart energy is so powerful, and I think maybe even subconsciously we felt that.
Lex, I'm curious, like when you gave that for instance of like the 10 people at the table and you're holding one conversation and you're dropping in, you're getting it, and the other 8 aren't, and then you did it with someone else. Do you have or would you be willing to give the specific example of like
Yeah,
what the topic
absolutely.
was?
So
And 'cause I think that might
sorry.
land.
So on my left, I had a Christian. It was all God. God's a man. Jesus is his son. Blah blah. Right.
Mhm.
And on my right, I had a couple. The woman was super spiritual, and it was all healing circles and crystals and chakras and all of that stuff. The man was not any of that, and was um, if you can't, Newtonian physics, Euclidean, form, matter. If you can't see it, if you can't weigh it, if you can't measure it, then it's all beyond me. But my wife's into it, so right. And then you could go around the table and you could find different things. And so for me, what I draw on all the time is that a place to start would be consciousness.
Mhm.
And consciousness comes before mind, even, I would say.
Mhm.
And I'd say for me, heart is part of consciousness. No, it's like the
Mhm.
possibly you could say maybe it's where consciousness and source meet or something.
Mhm.
And then anchored into the physical form, you have body and mind, and then that turns into the senses and speaking and all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I think consciousness is a really interesting place to start any conversation, and that's what I'm trying to do with people. And it's amazing how impoverished that conversation is.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love that you're doing that, Lex. The world needs more of that, those kind of conversations. It's going to help people to start remembering who they are. Even if they don't know it yet, you're planting a seed. It's really important.
What I would love to share is a reflection there. It's something that I find really fascinating when I listen to you, Lex, every time, is that your words make me understand something that I cannot explain. And
Mhm.
it's like I can sense the understanding. I can sense the truth of what you're saying. It's like there is a truth that my consciousness can hold on to somehow. It's like there is a part of me that grasps it completely. And yet my mind cannot use words to understand, to explain, basically. I cannot rationalize what you are explaining, but I can feel the truth of it in there somewhere. And I've got a feeling, I wonder whether that's exactly what's happening for all the people that you touch in your life. It's like when you speak, they will understand something deep inside. They will find a truth within them, but they don't have the mind, the rational access to it in a sense that they can then put it into words and do something with it yet. But it plants the seed, just as Aisha just said, like it plants something within them that can grow into a truth that can then unfold through their words, their actions, and transform into the 3D.
Well, you're awesome, and that's great. So another way to think of it is like a diver trapped under some wreckage, and a diver comes down and gives mouth to mouth for some oxygen, and then goes up and gets some more. I feel like I'm doing that with everyone. Like I'm keeping them up. It's like the diver trapped is their consciousness. That was the thing. So the real liberation is through mind, though, I think, and that's why I use a lot of words and get really talky about stuff. And it is possible, and it's not a long process. It is a process, but it is possible to what we need is more beautiful minds in the world for consciousness to have at its disposal. So each one of us is consciousness, and the more beautiful our mind is, the more beautiful the environment for consciousness, the more effective our mind is, the more effective the vehicle for consciousness. So mind is critically important, I think, because then consciousness can actually be fully present in a useful, powerful, beautiful machinery.
I agree, Lex. I feel like we need a certain amount of coherence so that we can have conversation and begin to kind of create from that new place. And until we can arrive there, we're kind of stuck in this place of it's like impoverished, like people can't connect and can't establish enough of a connection to begin to hold a conversation or begin to create together. And that fragmentation is like multiplicitous or whatever. Like it's so varied. It's not even one, it's not even a left and a right. It's just like thousands or millions or billions. And I would like to hear some comments from the rest of you on that concept. Do you find that as well to be so, that it's tough to share a common view of reality, a perception of what's real or what's happening or what's important to even speak about?
I'd say so. I think I definitely do, resonate with like a lot of the conversation we are just having. And I want to tap on the first point that Lex pointed out, just waking up in the morning, not sure like which story you're trapped into. Or the way I perceive that, it's almost like there's consciousness and there's unconsciousness. I think coming back after a deep sleep, personally for me, I do get wrapped up in my stories, and doing morning practices like either that's pranayamas or breath work or doing yoga or meditation, even going for a walk to clear my mind so that I can tap into the space of consciousness. And I've also heard like a lot of the elders talk about, collectively increasing the level of consciousness at any given point or any given space. For example, going to an ashram, all of a sudden my mind feels clear. Going to an intense city like New York or Toronto, and I feel this cloudiness, this like, what is going on? Like, that intensity, because I do feel that, as human being, we are energetic being, which means, we are tapping into all these things and being aware and tapping into that. And there's another layer of it, which is like Alex brings up quite often. It's defining when we say a word, what does it actually mean? That sentence for me, it goes back to just because I say or share something, am I to be sure that what the other person is hearing is exactly what I'm sharing, or are they perceiving a perception of their own truth, thinking that this is what I'm sharing? So yeah, I don't know if Shane remembers this. Like, I remember the workshop, the day retreat that we did on Bowen. I think you saw one of them. So one of the workshop, one of the things that we did in that workshop was emotional intelligence. And there we have a section where when we share something from our heart and we invite the other person to reflect back exactly what they heard, not what they perceived, not what they thought that they heard, but exactly what they heard. And I find that particularly when it comes to like relationship, a romantic relationship, this is such a powerful tool or doing even any spiritual work, to be able to fully comprehend what the other person is sharing. Because I do find that it's easy to get lost in the stories or triggers or emotions based on what the other person is sharing. Anyways, this is what brings up for me as we go through this conversation. I think it's very vital to address this piece. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
Yeah, right when you were talking about that, Mano, I was thinking you're so right. It's really, I mean, it's imperative that we show up in our vulnerability, because it's giving others permission to also do the same, which we all know that and hear that. But in the moment, like, it's really powerful. And sometimes it's really hard to show up that way, especially like when Lex was talking about how he's at this table with all these people, but it's still like they all want to have deeper conversations. But then when the time comes, it's like, are you really truly allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to be seen with how you really feel, how you really think, and how you really perceive the world to be? But I think it's really important that we all start doing that more and more with all that we meet, really showing up on that level, um, because that is how we're going to truly be able to express this consciousness that is all of us and that
Mhm.
we are sharing in as well. How far someone can meet themselves is how far, they're going to be able to meet you maybe in that conversation. But I think that the more that we begin remembering that that is who we are, and that is how you're truly living in the present moment, and how you're really truly like going to really connect with another soul or another human being, it is in that vulnerability. Um, and so many people are so numb to themselves, so numb to even their own divinity and their own worth. And so I think showing up in these conversations, and that's why I was like, oh, I love that you're doing this, Lex. It's like, yes, you have to choose sometimes to be that light, which is what, Lex, you are. It's like it's a light, it's a remembrance. Sometimes I speak of myself even like, okay, I'm going to choose to be that lighthouse with no expectation about anyone else is going to arrive here or what they're going to think about it, but I'm going to give that light. Whoever's ready to receive it and meet it, beautiful. And honestly, it's healing for me first and foremost, but it's important that we all show up in that vulnerability. It's because it's real. That's what's, I feel like, is so the only thing that's really real in our world anymore, that that heart space. And like, Lex was talking about, yeah, that there are certain aspects of what makes up consciousness. And I think for me, since I'm so heart centered this year, really focusing on that, I do understand though that it's through my heart that my higher self, my consciousness, is speaking to me. And that's why I talk about the heart, but really it's beyond just the heart. Like you were talking about, Lex, it's so much bigger than that. But it helps me to stay centered and to know where I can come to when I begin to fall out of alignment, or I begin to not be vulnerable or be my true self.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I feel like we're maybe the story of like the 10 people at the table, they're like all having their own truth and perspective, and it's not matching up with anybody other than with Lex a couple of times or something. But but they're all having the shared experience of, maybe like you're saying, Aisha, there's something happening there, like, if people show up real, then that's the way to navigate, if people are being authentic and speaking their truth. And everybody at that table could be speaking their truth, and they're all having the same experience that they're not connecting. And that's almost the shared experience, is we're all 10 humans here that are having trouble connecting with our understanding of reality or belief. Allow for that. And to me, what would be really interesting is to draw a map on the table of like a circle with 10 pie slices, and for everyone to offer what their truth is, and then for everyone to look at that together and see what the collective truth is or understanding of reality. And that might be what we share, is that we sit around a table that's with this many perspectives.
Mm. What that brings up for me is there's also this attachment to wanting people to believe what we believe, or wanting that commonality to be able to meet there, right? And so something I've been exploring over the past few years is just being at peace with people having their experience, as long as they're in their sovereignty. Because you can be in any reality, but are you in your sovereignty?
Mm.
Because I think there are many truths, and there is one common truth, but there's like this other aspect of like just allowing people to have their belief in their reality, but being able to have that, to come back to that place where, are you living in your truth in that, or is it controlling you? Is it guiding you, or are you allowing it to live through you? Does that make sense?
I understand that. The Lex.
So this is where it gets to the nitty gritty. Is it their truth or is it their story?
Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Because, so what I wrote down, how about if we said this? What about if there's a sovereign experience and that might be what we're trying to find? Part of it is consciousness. There's other factors, but really what we're looking for is our species to move forward into sovereign experience. And
Mm.
sovereign experience cannot possibly be this many contradictions. So somebody's wrong, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I agree that with there's sovereign experience that as more people tune into, will have slight variations, but more agreement on the general idea of what's going on and what's important to be focused on and creating in. Even if we're creating in a billion directions, we would have a unified understanding of what we're doing and why.
and it would be so much easier to wake up each morning and know what the fuck to do, right? And know
Yeah.
how to talk. So yeah, so I'll just quickly offer this then. That's what I'm working on. This label for now for this group, if we call it sovereign experience, my friend remembers this quote and pulls it out at exactly the right times. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication,
Mhm.
right? There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much energy. And I think there's only so many choices we can make in a day as well. There's only so much decision making we can do, right? And I think the same reason that somebody would wear black every day, and it's because it reduces the number of choices they have to make, which means that they've got those choices ready to be used in a useful way, right? To create something new, to choose new things rather than keep choosing the same things every day differently. Is this too weird? so,
No.
so imagine that you're using up all your choice energy on the same things every day, right? Well, if you can free up those choices, if you can get rid of some of those contradictions and create more alignment, then you've freed up some choices to start making new choices,
Mhm.
I'm
magical choices.
totally there with you. Sorry, Lex, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That
No,
was
you
really resonating with me because I hear you. Once I started to understand how precious my energy was and how I was giving it away so easily in relationships, in just in my personal life and with myself even. Yes, simple is good. I don't think a lot of people are used to simple. I think actually being simple and not being able to be distracted or feeling like you're doing stuff all the time, it's like a false sense of productivity or a success, and I think that, yeah, being mindful of where you put your energy, who you give it to, who you allow to be in it, what you're like, what kind of choices you're making with it. I think that's a huge part of it as well. Really owning it, and being protective of it even to an extent.
I've got one more bit to offer, which is that, how about if I put it like this? All of the components are sticking out in different directions, all of the structures which are sort of a bit random and have all these theatrical attachments, if those were removed and we got down to the core essences of what we were actually talking about, then everyone would have a more streamlined core, and streamlined things move through time and space with less resistance, and therefore their energy lasts longer and goes further. So I think part of the issue I'm having is that it's exhausting trying to move amongst all of these sort of bad feng shui structures of being. And if they could be clarified a bit, then people brushing into each other would be a much less difficult, jarring sort of experience. And so, well, who gets to choose this, almost dogma? Who gets to choose what is true and what is not true? Well, that would be something for us to discuss now. Like, what would be the core? What would you build on? Like, what would be the foundations?
To me, this aspect of simplicity is huge. I feel like that is one of the ultimate foundations of evolution, because I feel like society at large, or the collective at large, I feel like complexity is almost an addiction at the moment. It's like, it feels like complexity is this, there is almost like a craving for complexity in individual lives, collective lives, but also like in the systems that there are. It's just, there is so much stuff added on that is not necessary. So it feels like it's a process of stripping down and removing all of these complexities from life. And when you said that, with who is deciding what is true, and in that sense, what really came to me was like this question of who is deciding what is complex and what is simple, who's deciding what we still need to keep and what is ready to go, especially in the systems we live in. Because I mean, to me, it's always the German bureaucracy is the best example of complexity going mad, right? So it's like, and yeah, so I think that's a really, really important question. And I do feel like that, I don't know, in the end, I guess the first thing to do is to start reducing complexity in our own lives and noticing the moments when we create complexity for ourselves, even in very simple things that can be something, again, that also comes down to the choices thing, right? If I spend 10 minutes trying to figure out in the morning whether I should have tea or coffee, and if tea, then which tea, and what coffee should I have, and all the different options, that's just, I mean, if I can remove that, then I have already contributed a tiny little bit to less complexity in the field, I guess.
Mhm. Well said. I think we're getting somewhere good. I would add the word awareness instead of it being someone's decision about what we should focus on or what we should build on. I think awareness guides us there to where it doesn't need to come from an individual. The awareness starts to bring the bigger picture and the other influences of life that are happening and how we align with them. And then if we're all aligning with those bigger influences, then there's already harmony in the collective without us needing to take cues from each other. If we have our own awareness, we're already aligning with seasons, with clean water, with life, with these kind of things. Then we're seeing who's in alignment with that and who's not paying attention or not aware, or actively working against it. I think those things become more evident when we bring our awareness to that space. Lex, yeah.
If I could take us to a core,
Mhm.
what is the simplest description of reality?
Mhm.
Oh,
Well, I think that something that has always existed and will always exist is love. And that was one of the things that I think needs to be part of the foundation. And to go a little bit further, love for Mother Gaia, because that is where we are as humans are being allowed to have these experiences and this evolution of ourself. And like Shane was mentioning, it's like really being able to see how people show up in those ways allows you to see where someone is at. Um, and I think it's important to do without judgment, but I think it's also important to be able to know and see where people are at and showing up in their own reality, because there's obviously a shared reality, but a lot of times people are in their own world, their own reality. And I think that something that's common though, whether someone's able to express it or whether that person is still in tune with it, is love. And I think it's powerful. And society, media, matrix, whatever you want to call it, has watered down the power of your own love. And we've seen it in action, when things happen in the world on mass scales, how people instantly, without even thinking, it's from a loving place. It's being human, humanity, show up for each other and take care of each other. So we know that it's alive and that it exists. But like Clara was talking about, there's all these, well, I like to call them distractions, but yes. Like what did you say? What was the word you used, Clara? Calamities or no?
Just complexity, was it
Oh,
that one?
complexities. Yes. Which I think complexities, so many of them, like you're saying, there's just so much that we have to, but we don't actually have to. We're made to feel like we have to involve ourselves. And so many of them are distractions, which comes back to Lex talking about that foundation of simplicity. We choose simplicity. We have to choose simplicity in our world. There are so many things that are happening. Some are orchestrated, some are real, some are projected, but we decide of what we allow into our reality. We allow where we allow our energy to go, It's kind of my feel on that.
I love that. Love is definitely the core thing that's worth doing all the things for. Just bear with me. See if I can do this without upsetting you all. So, for instance, you did the thing where you said judgment, right? Without judgment. Now, I would offer that there's nothing wrong with judgment necessarily if it's well informed, reasoned, deliberated, benevolent judgment, right? So one of the things that I see happening is that important component, reasonableness, care with thinking about things, giving them the right amount of time and attention. And to do that, you need a clarified mind. You need to be able to see things as they are, not be distorted and twisted. So a healthy mind rationally sees reality in terms of judgment. That literally is a word that means like, how far do I need to move my hand to pick up that cup? That's judgment. Judgment means cognition. Judgment means the gears of your mind turn and there's a certain amount of cause and there's a certain amount of effect. It's the machinery of mind that needs to be made perfect and beautiful and benevolent and loving. Then whatever comes into it will be judged using that machinery. Judgment is not the bad thing here. It's the thing that's causing the judgment that needs to be looked at. And that's invisible. These important aspects that would become the simple components of how we live are not even in the sentences we use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, Lex, this is funny because this happened another time. I think maybe the first circle that I sat in with all of you, like how I use my words. So when I say judgment, I'm talking about having an opinion that comes from a story. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to clarify that, And so I think what you're talking about as how you define judgment, I think is pure and is needed in this world. I think what I was talking about was like allowing our triggers and our wounds we haven't looked at and our opinions of things to judge something or judge
Now
someone.
that's the conversation, right?
This
You
is
see what
why,
I mean?
I love that you helped me clarify. Thank you.
But it's not you. This is not an attack on you. I see this in
Oh, no,
everybody, everywhere I go. We're getting packets of information with all the important stuff that would actually take us somewhere removed. And it's like a contagion. Everybody's doing it. It's just these pointless conversations.
Mhm.
I feel like that really circles back to this, to the book I'm reading right now with this ensouled language, because I feel like ensouled language is almost that thing that becomes one of these aspects of foundation, because it feels like so much of the language has been or is being distorted in a way that meaning has been stripped of it. But when we can reintroduce the meaning into the language and actually mean what we're saying, then that's simplicity at work.
That's beautiful, Clara. I agree.
Mono, what would you say is the world simple down?
I think for me, what really stands out is compassion and respect. The reason I think this stands out for me is because I think there is a certain level of confusion that's already exists within a human mind. I'm not sure how many people are actually aware of the concept of stories, self-talk. So, when I see all those things, and when I do run into those things, it's great that, we can come down, we can sit here, talk about the nuance, dive in, have the patience to go in and have the capacity to be able to share our reality and to hear the other person's reality. But I also question how many people do actually have this kind of patience or the capacity to be able to go in, even awareness, and to be able to hold themselves when trigger arises. So those are definitely the points that stands out for me. And for me, the simplest version of reality, I definitely resonate with love, but I also resonate with the human body. I mean, human body, human mind, because this is what I use it to experience reality. And, when I look outside my room, I see the material world. That is a form of reality that I experience day-to-day world. But when I close my eyes, then there is another version of reality that exists within me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm to say that, this reality is real because I can physically touch things. So yes, it has a very strong valid to it. Yes, of course, it's very real. But then again, so is the other reality that creates this material reality. Maybe not everyone sees that, feels that, and in contact with that. Yeah. So that's what I would share. It's what I see as reality. And even within this material reality, there's so many neon, there's so many complexity, like Clara was saying. And same goes for the reality, the unseen reality. And which one of them is real? For me, they're both real. Or, I mean, there's a lot more than two, but they're both real.
For me, it feels like the core that combines the two is, and maybe for me, that would be the simplest definition of reality. It's life itself, almost like being alive, at least from this human perspective right now, that it all comes down to the fact that I am alive right now. And we are all alive right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I find that, we need the mind to differentiate between the different realities. Like without the mind, we are one. Because of the mind, because of the ego, there is separation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good, Mono. Yeah.
I think that combination of words where ego and mind were used together is, I think, for me personally, I would say when people talk about ego, really the best way to talk about it is that is mind, right? And then you go straight to, you simplify ego, id, blah 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 blah, subconscious, unconscious, blah blah blah, mind. And mind is conscious active or conscious passive and programs, and that's it. And if you're conscious active, you can fight against your programs and eventually win. And if you're conscious passive, your programs live your life for you.
Mhm.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like you're talking about autopilot versus active piloting. Yeah.
The word I would use that first came to mind when you said to simple it down, the word that came up for me was experience.
In what
Would you
way
like
do
to
you mean?
expand on that, Shane? Like,
In one way, it's because experience is similar to Claire in that it's like life, like it's happening. That's one aspect of it. It's like Aisha would like love, we're here to experience love and experience, in my mind, also what's not love is a part of the experience. We have the inner world, we have the physical world, but that too is a created experience in my understanding. Like we've created this physical world to experience the egos. We get to see and interact with other aspects of self, is my understanding of it. And that we're here to have experience and to learn from experience. And that's at the simple level. Like, and now I guess just to speak to the conversation that we're having all the way up into this point right now, I would say that in my mind, I both have that experience that we seem to be way more fragmented, separated, disconnected than we need to be, or that would be maybe natural, even within a planet of 8 billion people, that there would be a sovereign experience that could be happening. And it's my understanding that I'm experiencing that right now, that fragmentation, that disconnect. But I also believe that we're on the precipice of a rapid change and evolution within our species, in which we do a hundredth monkey effect happens, where we snap into a more shared understanding of reality and sovereign experience, where we're no longer having to like force our way to build one word at a time a constructed reality with each other, but we do start to all bring our awareness up above the clouds or the water enough to like see each other and gain a little bit more of a like shared experience, even though we retain our individual perspective of that shared experience. We're no longer in debate about what the shared experience is. And we may start to move forward more as a species mind. And that's a bit of what I believe and why I gather these conversations together, because I feel we're on the precipice of that happening. And I wish to help facilitate that and be a part of it and be paying attention to how I can play my part within that experience. And
I love that. So there's going to be a process of agreement and alignment, and that is going to have to involve surely a lot of these stories dissolving. And certainly the language we communicate with being healed.
yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like when is it's a shared knowing, like you're talking about, it won't even have to be spoken. It's going to be a shared knowing. And all what it brought up for me was the relationship I have with my life lover, as I call him, my partner, is like there is moments where we don't have to say anything, and I truly know that he is feeling what I am feeling. And I believe that, I mean, there is a time in history where people were communicating telepathically. Like, and I believe that you're talking about, Shane, is it is coming back around where we are going to begin communicating that way with each other. It is going to be an internal knowing, and you're going to know when the other person knows what you know, you know. But it involves people being able to call out the story that they've been believing as their truth, which is not true. And that is painful to do that. I have had to look at myself on this journey and be like, whoa, oh my God. And it almost breaks your own heart that you were allowed yourself to, well, for me, I'll speak for myself, to stay in a space where I believed something so strongly. And then I can go now, like, oh my God, that was that story, that was that wound, I was being driven, passive consciousness. Is that what you called it, Lex? And for me to be able to do that, though, I was just talking about this with my boyfriend. It's such a, oh my gosh, it's such an intense moment to be able to have to admit that or to see it, but it is freedom. That's where the liberation lives. That's where you can start to also have more compassion, like Mana was talking about, for other people who maybe haven't reached that point, but they're heading there and they're battling with it. It's like, yes, that's why it's so important for us to be vulnerable and show up and talk about these things, because there is this process that happens and it can be really painful. But I just want everyone to know that, yes, it's painful. Life is painful, but do you want to stay there or do you want to break through and have this freedom? Because it's there and many people are doing it. You're not alone, you know?
Yeah, Lex.
That's one of the core things is when people are talking, is it their active consciousness doing its best to talk through whatever mind they currently have, or are they passively watching mind robotically going through the motions? So character, when we're born into any environment, any culture, we speak the language, we wear the clothes, we eat the food, blah, blah, right? We become literally a sort of a program of the environment, and it surrounds consciousness, and it's so has so much inertia and doing of its own accord that it is possible to just sit your whole life and passively watch that programming, those layers of interactive programming, just do everything for you. That's a possibility. Trauma can cause that to happen. And I think that people have been put into that on purpose. I think there's been a black magic, and the black magic is to get people out of active consciousness and into passive consciousness. And generationally, they've got it to the point where people don't even know that being active consciousness is possible. And so for me, the conversation is, you start consciousness, you help people locate themselves amongst themselves, clarify what that is, and then help and protect and guide through the process of spending time in this fucked up piece of shit that we've got to work with called mind, and just rebuilding it and turning it into something, like healing it, like land that people have tipped stuff on, and oil and radioactive waste, and it's all got to be cleaned, and it's got to be healed and regrown and nutrified and feng shuied, and the next thing you know, it's like a beautiful Japanese landscape, and now you live in that, and that's your resting point. You feel more rested in your life because your mind isn't inhospitable and traumatic, you know? So
Yeah.
you get, right. So active consciousness is the simple thing that I think if we could get there. So then active consciousness, this mind that active consciousness would step up, ascend, right? And now it looks around and there's this long process of rebuilding, and it's hard work. And what's really difficult about it is that the thing you use to fix mind is mind, right? But anyway, once you get past that, and it takes time, there are periods of time when people rest. It's like you become active conscious for a while, then it's exhausting. You go back to being passive. And this identity speaks for you. It carries on making bad decisions. It carries on saying things that don't resonate in your heart. It carries on living this life with this momentum, making awful choices, relationship choices, and all those sorts of decisions. And you just sit there because you're exhausted, and you let it happen. And at some point you go, no, and you come back in and you give it another go. Is that sounding familiar?
Oh, yeah.
And it brings up really, for me, the question how that then affects individual truth and individual reality. Because I feel like as you were talking, I was seeing again these 10 people at the table, and the pie chart that Shane introduced with all the 10 pizza slices of truth. And this question of like, when they come from passive consciousness, they speak a truth that is not their truth. And then when they speak from actual active consciousness, that truth will have a different feel to it. It will have a different quality to it. And the question that popped up for me was really like, what would happen if all these 10 people spoke from active consciousness? Do these truths align into one truth that is the same? Or could it still be possible that you have, you know, like the 3 people that were sitting next to you, and they come from conscious truth, and they're still in that same truth that they had when they have passive consciousness, just now it's from a conscious point. So that's like this interesting question of like, will they remain, but they will probably not remain the same, they will probably change, but could we possibly still have these 10 different truths just coming from active consciousness?
Can I speak to that quickly? My theory is that until mind is fixed, it's very difficult to be a clarified, pure voice of consciousness, because every time you try and speak, the mind translates it through your character. And it's almost like you're trying to speak through an interpreter, and the interpreter is not saying what you're trying to say. You can't, you know, and it works both ways as well, because if this, you know, there's loads of funny sketches where the interpreter is taking liberties with transferring information, is not being trustworthy, is not doing it word for word, you know, is having a bit of fun with it, or isn't very good at it. Well, that's the issue with mind. You have to turn it into a very eloquent speaker of 2 languages, pure you and external world. And external world, I've done the pure you bit for me. My problem now is that you have to learn like a multiplicity of other languages, and it takes a long time. And people like us, what surprises me is that we can't sit together and speak pure conscious. That's what surprises me. Not trying to offend you guys. I'm just saying, like, that's how much of a number they've done on us.
Mm-hmm.
I totally feel that. It really reminds me of the walk I went for a walk yesterday. And as I was walking by the river, I noticed that there is this deep feeling inside of me of truth of who I am. So it's like I can 1000% feel the truth of who I am. But the translation never feels like it's quite there. And the expression of it, be it through words, be it through, like, sometimes I don't even, it's like this thing, it's like as if my mind cannot even comprehend that truth. There is no understanding that my mind can hold on to of the truth of who I really am. And yet I can feel it somewhere in the core of my belly. It's there, like, and with it comes almost then this sense of grief and of pain, because there is like nothing I want more than expressing that and bringing that out into the world. And yet it's like, yeah, it's like this translator is just not doing, it's like it's working on it, but it's a bit like Google Translate, you know, when I use it quite a lot for work, and sometimes I stick something in German, I want it coming out in Swedish, and I'm reading it and going like, this is all wrong, isn't it? It's like it's using words, but they're not the right words, and I'm saying something that is kind of vaguely in the right direction, but that's about it.
That's awesome. So that's so perfect. It's like predictive text. I've got a joke about this. The man who invented predictive text has died. His funfair's next monkey.
Tell me again. I missed
I
some.
didn't hear you, Lex. What is it?
The man who invented predictive text died this week. His funfair's next monkey. His funeral's next Monday.
I hate predictive text, by the way.
So that's mind, right? It's like it can be that, you know, when you like you're trying, your soul is trying to present itself, right? And it's like, instead of, it's like predictive text, it's just making you look like a sausage.
You know, when you're talking about, oh, sorry, Shane, I'll just say this really quickly. It's like Clara was talking about, it is a practice, because, you know, you're talking, Lex, about like there is like this poison in the matrix there, and it's true. I mean, it is potent, and it's in every system possible. So for you to have to be able to really be conscious of that and aware of it every day, of how you're showing up, it's a lot, along with all, like Claire said, the complexities of life, you know, and really choosing. But I honestly feel like we are already in all our glory who we are. There's just things we need to remove. and it is those things we need to remove. So I think for me, it's like it can feel overwhelming if I think about the fact that I'm not being my full self, because I want that so much. So instead, I would love to instead just be at peace and be patient with myself and have compassion with myself, that I'm not quite there yet with expressing my soul, expressing my consciousness, but I know that I'm on my way. And I I think it's important for me, at least, to make sure there's no guilt or shame there within it. Being human sometimes is so difficult in all its ways of expression and expressing ourselves, for me. And I'm sure other people feel that too, but I think, like, keeping it simple, like you said, Lex, coming back to that simpleness of just really being aware of what's coming up and then deciding whether it's usable or not, and removing it. And I think the more that we do that, we get back to who is already there existing within each of us. Does that resonate with anybody?
Yeah.
I think I love this. I love this conversation. It feels like it's very present, very authentic, and I feel like you can sense the sort of consciousness amongst it, like wild horses, you know?
Mm. Mm. It's
Mm.
palpable. What came up for me in this conversation is that, like, I've encountered people whose nature I'm very attracted to, and maybe there's an innocence or a fragileness or a vulnerability or just a realness that's there, and I'm attracted to it and I connect with them. And then, like, some aspect of their, like, maybe repetitive mind or sleep mind or whatever kind of like says something that's a little like harsh or mean or whatever, and it'll like catch me off guard because it wasn't the aspect of them that I was attracted to. And it's like maybe maybe an abusive element that's been in their life that now that they'll take on the persona of or embody or share out, and then, like, it's like it can be a harsh reflection back. And uh and uh that to me is kind of like can be that flip or that switch of like authentic self versus like translated self. Like, we can kind of see and connect with authentic self pretty quickly, and then sometimes the environmentally translated self can be really rough to encounter, or
Mm.
be abrasive, or like mean or cruel, or like tell like a joke that's not nice, or they say something like, you're like, well, that's so different than the being thought I was just connecting with. And it seems like a not authentic aspect of self, and seems abusive on some level. And I've had that experience, and it feels to be what surfaces in my mind as I hear this conversation. So I think Aisha will be right back. She just said she had to step out for a minute. And
So how do you guys feel about this concept so this is an agenda, apparently, that I would be very excited to continually sort of refresh back to, let's try consciousness and let's see what's stopping that and see if we can address that as we go. Otherwise, we're sort of skirting past the absolute fundamental issue, right? My early sort of exuberance and quickness to push forward was that I felt like it would be great to consolidate that and then move forward.
I'm all for us, like, holding this. Each of us have a responsibility to maybe hold what we're speaking to right now and not forget it, and to help each other remember it in our next conversation, so that we can continue to grow on it and not just lose this and have to start over or get too distracted. But hopefully we can bring this full conversation into our next conversation and continue to develop it and open it up more. And I believe that we're all together in this conversation on the same page with it, and we have like kind of moved and grown together, and I don't think it will be lost. I hope to hold it with me, and I invite each one of you to help us collectively remember so that we can continue to let it unfold. And I'll add
I'd
one
be curious. Oh,
more.
sorry, Shane.
Welcome
I'd be
back.
curious. I'm so sorry. I had
Fun.
used the bathroom so bad. I was like, how do I do this? Okay, I just got to do it because I won't be able to sit and really channel with you guys at the end because I can't concentrate. Apologies. What I wanted to ask though, in that remembrance of the next time we meet, I just wanted to ask everyone, like, where are you feeling this in your body?
Mm, mm.
And what does it feel like? And then come back to that place in our next conversation. I personally feel it in my solar plexus. I feel it like it's powerful, and it is the first time I think I really have felt something in a long time in unison with more than one person. And Lex, I'm really focused on always trying to expand how I see things and how I see myself and just refining myself. And I just want you to know I'm really grateful every time that I listen to you. It's, it's broadened my perspective. Even if I was already on that route, it helps me to kind of expand in it. And that's, I just love that. I really appreciate it. And to really be able to affect each other that way is kind of why we're here, right?
We can all contribute equally, and this is my contribution. So, you know.
It's a really, really good one.
Mm.
I think I can also echo on that. I also definitely do feel it in my solar plexus. I think it's important to continue to evolve on these topics and see what will unfold. Yeah, thank you, Lex, for bringing that piece, and yeah, keep adding a new layer to the conversation.
You know, when Shane says let's all channel now, I try and do that all the time. And then once it comes through, I then have to check it and go, can I say this? Can I not say this? And this is the thing I was trying to say in the first one at the beginning, when it all went a bit pear-shaped. And that was all I was trying to say.
I was guessing that it might be something like that. Like, Lex is probably saying he does this all the time, so it's no different. Aisha, I would say that, like, I don't have a clear place I've felt it in my body, but there was definitely a moment where I felt almost diffused equally into all of you. Like I didn't feel any shields up or blockages. Like I was like, I feel like we're all kind of on the same page, and that had a distinct feeling within my body, almost more of a like I had be like liquided into all of you, and there was like just one pool of us, and I definitely felt that. And I should add,
Nice.
I don't know if Claire, if you wanted to share your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because what came up for me in a sense of physical awareness is the spinal column.
Mm.
It's like it almost I could feel the energy running up and down my spine, but it's like this, and what the word that came was the connection back to the foundation of what matters.
I got to say it. See how simple it is when you get the right stuff, right? It takes you to where you need to be, and it starts the things we need to start, the way we need to start them. Like, this is super important stuff. Like, anyway, I'll stop now. But
Well, I'm curious, where is it and where are you feeling it, Lex?
I don't know if you guys have all seen this because you're in different parts of the world, but we used to have an advert where people would eat a breakfast cereal that's really bad for you, by the way, called Ready Bread, and it was made of oats and it was heated, and then the kids would go out into the cold weather and they'd have this protective shield all around them,
Oh, that's funny.
right? Well, that's kind of how I feel when you guys were in alignment with the thing we were talking about. Like, I felt like it allowed me to soften back into full form.
Mm.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, I like the visual.
That's so interesting. As you just said that, I could just take it the deepest breath I've taken all day.
Mm. 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 I think we're arriving at our sweet, kind of natural finish. We've gone the longest we've ever gone, but we're making such great progress. It was I'm glad we've spent the time that we have. Um, I just want to I want to conclude with one more visual. It's my belief that species on other planets have achieved this sovereign experience, shared experience, and it moves their whole species to a next level of conscious evolution and movement and access in the telepathic and the connected mindset and in their creative potential on their planet and into the greater cosmos. That's what I believe, and I just want to hold that as a potential reality for where we're moving as a human species. And I feel that all those species who have done that are aware of the human beings on Earth and what we're going through and what we're struggling, because they're eagerly cheering us on to arrive there at our maturity of a species as well. And I think we have their support and their backing, and we won't really be able to fully engage with them until we arrive there and can kind of see them eye to eye as we see ourselves and see each other in that eye to eye-ness. And I would like to hold that as a inspiration or like a potential possibility, even if it's just a, you know, a dream perspective. I wish to offer that out to the collective there.
And that already
I-
exists in some timeline in this human reality.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time before we merge with that, you know?
Exactly. So we don't have to fear the struggle that it's all on our shoulders to make it happen, but to just align with the happening of it as best as we can as individuals. It's been one of the most satisfying recorded sessions we've done together. It's been really beautiful, and as we bring it to a close, we'll go ahead and we'll move into our phase where we do our channeling, and we'll take this moment to channel our higher selves to bring through any to maybe gather the whole night's conversation into like a one sentence kind of offering, and speak to what we feel is the most important energetic that came through the conversation tonight, to just kind of yeah, condense it down into one expression, one word, one sentence, a few sentences, something brief but like as channeled as pure as we can. And as that channel comes through, if it has something to say that feels new, and but it feels like what the channel message is, that's fine as well. We'll trust that message, and we'll allow ourselves to be curious and playful and enjoy this process of exploring our channel and the messages that want to come through this evening. So take a moment to connect with your breath, connect with your pure inner self, and your connection with source. And when you're ready, go ahead and share your channeled message.
comes through for me is patience is the precipice of the new beginning. As the separation of the mind comes in unity, as we witness tonight in the space. As a being, we merge into one. And that is an invitation to a new start. Letting go of the separation and joining in communion with the oneness that we each experience tonight. I thank each of you for this dance that we were able to dance together with our words, with our thoughts, with our intention. I feel the unity and the oneness with each of you. I'm grateful for the space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motto, that is so similar to what came through for me from the get. It said oneness does not concern itself with being wrong or right. It is a meeting place of the minds. And it's incredible to think about the feeling that we are all sharing here today. We all really allowed ourselves to be seen and be vulnerable and to just speak from our consciousness. And I think that's what was felt. And the more that we talked about it, the more we were able to kind of peel back more and more. And thanks, Lex, for like getting it really focused on that, you know? I think sometimes realizing that this is for me, like I'm not exactly where I want to be, can be a distraction. So that oneness, it brings me back to the idea of that message that came through. It's like that oneness is what matters. And it starts with the oneness with being with yourself, exactly how you are right here, right now. And we almost each got to that point so that we could share that together. And it's just it's incredible. It's really beautiful. I have so much profound love for each of you. Thank you so much. I can feel it all through my body.
Yeah, me too, Aisha. Thank you.
Yeah, each of you have touched me in a really deep way today. So thank you.
Yeah, massive goosebumps when you speak. Massive goosebumps.
Oh, wait, what'd you say, Mana?
Lots of goosebumps that were just like rushing energy, just like shh, shh. I'm like, okay, that's like a lot of goosebumps in like a little span of time.
Yeah.
I'll let Clara have the last word, so I'll go now then. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting sensation when I would say that there's so much more potential for this group to get to that location of speaking from consciousness. And even if it feels difficult because you sense it happening through mind and you feel it being less than perfect, it's worth going there anyway, because that's the only real conversation.
Mm. Yep.
The words that came from me were, there is a place within each of us that breathes truth. And this place that breathes truth is existent in every cell of our bodies and in every plant and every animal and every atom, in every particle, like this place that breathes truth. And all of these places that breathe truth, or the truth that breathes, they all breathe in the same rhythm. And it's that rhythm that connects everything.
Ooh.
which brings us back to even being at one with Mother Gaia. We really need to love and nurture her. We need her. Otherwise, all of our experiences would not be had, right? You're talking about all the other living things. It's like, yeah, it's not even just about us as a human species, it's all species, and our mother. Um, yeah, that's so beautiful, Clara. I definitely resonate with that.
Getting strong emotion coming up as I try to connect in with the channel tonight. There's like shields of like protecting us where we've gotten hurt before, and like we have to like pull them back a little bit to share our truth, and we really hope that it's received and felt and heard, and then as we offer it, if the best we can, and maybe it's not feeling heard or received, it's like so painful, and to think that we got to hold that shield tighter or more, and like somewhere in tonight, I feel there was a lot of bravery that let that shield open up a little bit more, and dare to trust. And there was that desire to connect, and that belief that it can happen, and that we lowered the shields and opened up the heart space enough to where we did kind of feel to land a collective safe space to see each other and be seen, and hear each other, and hear past the differences to the well of truth fountaining up within each of us there. And we all seem to feel it in our bodies, which was really beautiful. Yeah.
I
So
feel like a shared knowing or remembrance happened for us all on this in the same way. We were all remembering and meeting in the same place.
It's funny that you say that because Toronto in the native language actually means the meetup point. Uh,
That's
it's
cool.
random, but just
It's been a lovely meetup point here tonight with each of you. And before we say our final goodbye, just open the floor for any final comments or in closing before we go. And
I'm just really grateful for this space, and for these conversations, and for each of your intentions and hearts. I really am, and minds. And because, I mean, as much as I always want to bring to the collective and affect the collective in a beautiful way, I always find so much healing here, and affirmation and or confirmation. I mean, um, and to to Lex's point about like how we show up, you know, when he's talking about, are you bringing your story or not? It's like, and even Lex at one point, I think you said something like, you know, I channel this, but do I share it or do I not? And I understand that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but today, even being able to cry and not hold that back, that the old me would have not even allowed any tears to be shown in front of people on screen. But I think like that's human. Being human is showing and expressing the emotion. And so I guess just to tie it all together, it's like to really be able to be ourselves in this space is precious, and that we hold space for each of us to do that. And I'm so grateful. I really am grateful for that. That's something that is important for me to provide for my clients or anyone that I hold space with, because I know how precious it is and how much it means to me. And so I just want you to know I'm very, very, very grateful and appreciative to be able to just be me here. But thank you to each of you.
Thank you, Isha.
I also feel really, really deep gratitude and a really deep feeling of peace within each of your energies. So it's like the allowance or this feeling of really being held in this space is really precious. It's special. So I really want to thank each and every one of you for doing this incredible, beautiful, and important work for each of us in this call, and for everyone who's touched by the words that are being said and the emotions that are being felt and the truth that is being transmitted.
Yeah, I loved it today as well. I thought everyone was on top form in terms of like genuine, authentic, magical loveliness.
Love it.
Agreed. Well, thank you everyone for listening this evening. It's been amazing, and we appreciate your sharing in with this time, and we look forward to doing this again soon. Have a good night. Bye.